Okay, hi. So I'm supposed to be working on an Ivantil fic right now, but I fell into Love and Deepspace hell, so I want to talk about it. If you don't know, Love and Deepspace is an Otome game, a game marketed towards women. It's also a gacha game, so you have to pull and spend, well, you don't have to spend money, but you usually would spend money to get cards. The game was created in 2024 by Paper Games, and it quickly became a huge success, topping the iTunes chart, I think. I've made a couple videos on this game before. I made one about what your favorite love interest says about you, and then I made another one about the BL controversy with this game. I stand by the BL one specifically, and if you want my opinion on that, I'll leave the link to that below, but I won't be reiterating it here. So, in Love and Deepspace, you play as a character, I'm going to call her MC, who's a hunter, which is kind of like a police officer almost. And she fights these monsters called Wanderers. Along the way, she meets multiple men, about so far 5, that are like the love interests, and they guide her on her journey. Anyways, today we're going to be talking about one love interest in particular, and that is Caleb, because Caleb's story just started coming out. He's the new love interest in the story so far. There's been a bit of discontent with his content so far, or well, it's been a bit controversial. Here's where I tell you there'll be spoilers for Love and Deepspace, specifically Homecoming Wings. There'll also be spoilers for other Otome games eventually, but I'll put a list of them here, I guess. So as I said, Caleb is the new love interest in the game. He grew up with MC and he died in an earlier chapter, but then came back. He didn't really come back to life, but he's now in the story again as a love interest. I'll talk more about his story and connection with the MC later. For now, you just need to know he's the new love interest and his story is just coming out. And the fan reception of Caleb has been odd, or well, controversial. But before we dive into Caleb specifically, I want to talk about yanderes and toxic love in Otomes in general. And if you have played Caleb's story already, or if you've seen any content about it online, you know why we have to dive into this topic before talking about him. Toxic love is common in Otomes, especially in bad ends, because they're meant to be bad. You're meant to see a bad side of a love interest. Though there is one other way to show like toxic romance in a character, and that is a yandere. Yanderes are a character who is dangerously obsessed with their love interest, or with the MC in this case. So for the terms, yanderu means to be sick, and deri means love struck. So put those terms together, you get yandere. Yandere characters are often sweet and innocent at first, but they can become extremely violent and psychotic in regards to their love interest. They may kill other people out of jealousy, or do anything to control the love interest. Other yanderes include Toma from Amnesia, Isura Amari from F7 Scarlet. People think Yusung is a yandere, Yusung from Mystic Messenger. You could argue that Juman and Seiran are also yandere, at least in some of the endings. Tay from Nameless is the creepiest yandere I have interacted with, and I played every route of Toma in Amnesia, but Tay still takes the cake. And like yanderes are really popular in Otome, a lot of games have at least one of them. I think yandere characters are extremely popular in Otome because it gives the player a chance to dive into toxic love without actually being in a toxic situation. It's like watching horror movies or playing horror games or even watching like court shows or crime documentaries. While you are experiencing those things as a viewer and you are learning about those things as a viewer, you have the option to walk away if it gets to be too much for you. You have autonomy and control. Like, do I ever want to be an officer or a doctor? No. Will I watch shows about that? Will I watch Psychopaths? Yes, because this sensationalized view of these things is entertaining to see. That being said, a little tangent. You need to take into account a lot of shows do sensationalize things, so when you interact with them, you're not always getting the most accurate picture of something, but that's kind of an off-topic thing. And like, let's be real here, so many people read Killing Stalking, but I don't think anyone who read it wants to be killed, like, wants to be knocked out, stuck in a basement with a serial killer. It lets you see this bad part of the human psyche without actually having to interact with it in real life or put yourself in danger. Toxic love is one of those things that I'd obviously never want to experience again in real life. But seeing it in fiction is just, it's interesting to dissect these characters who have such, who have trauma and it leads to being a yandere, or like characters with very complex stories and complex personalities are really interesting to dive into. Like, I'm diving into Caleb's character right now because it is one of the while it's controversial, like, it has so much to it. There's so much substance to his character already. Toxic media gives you the chance to explore things that you never should or would in real life. As I said, you get to do these things from a safe distance where you're in control and you can step away when you feel uncomfortable. And I think exploring dark topics in the darker side of the human psyche while being completely safe behind the scenes is interesting. Now let's talk about Caleb, okay? My personal opinion of Caleb, I may be going off the script here a little bit. My personal opinion on Caleb is that he makes me feel really conflicted. Like, and it's not because his yandere tendencies make me feel uncomfortable. It's because for some reason I like this character, or I want to like this character, even though his actions piss me off beyond belief. I feel like he'd be my favorite if he just, like, listened to the MC for 1 minute. Okay, he'd be my second favorite, because, let's be honest, no one's overthrowing Sylus anytime soon. I don't know how to explain it. The way I feel conflicted makes me think, like, is this what the MC is feeling? She cares for Caleb, and she has this past with Caleb. She must be going through conflicted feelings of, this is someone I knew as a kid, I know he's a good person, but all these actions he's doing are not okay. And, like, that conflicting feeling feels similar to how I feel about him, where it's like, okay, there are parts where I see he's a good character, and I see he's nice with the MC, and then there are things that he does that are really toxic and piss me off. And I think the game does such a good job of walking that line between making a toxic character and an enjoyable character, because some people go so far into the toxic character that, like, you can't stand them, like, they become too bad. Whereas Caleb is right in the middle, where he does these toxic things, but it doesn't offset how interesting of a character he is. I feel like Caleb's actions and this conflicting feeling about them makes it easier for me to empathize with the MC or self-insert to the MC, because they do such a good job of making you feel like the MC presumably does. She even fights against him more than I presumably would. Like, personally, if Caleb did certain things, I would just let him do his thing, like, appease him a little bit out of fear for myself. But MC fights against this man, and it made me love her character so much. It did make the self-insert a little bit different, because I would have reacted differently. But seeing MC have this autonomy and fight against Caleb and not just sit around and let things happen around her was really refreshing to see. I think Caleb and his personality really brings out a lot about the MC, and that's not even getting into their past together yet. Because seeing Caleb's past, you're seeing more of MC's past, and you're learning more about her while you learn about Caleb. So Caleb's character, I think, is the one so far who has helped us learn the most about the main character. Zane is up there too, but Caleb is... You learn a lot about MC through Caleb. Like, the MC fights with Caleb. She tries to keep things from him, like in the story where she wants to help that kid, but she tells Zane because she doesn't want to tell Caleb and get the authorities involved. I just really appreciate how they wrote her into the story. And, like, I hadn't thought much about her character until playing Caleb's story. Sylus also brings out a side of the main character that's interesting to see, but I feel like Caleb just brings out this feisty side of her that I really love seeing in a main character. Because not all the main characters are like this, but a lot of Otome characters are really like blank slates because they want you to be able to self-insert into them. And I think that this game is doing a good job of making the MC both available to self-insert into, while also giving her a personality. But as a yandere, I think Caleb is really well written. Him and the MC were experimented on as kids, and unlike the main character who forgot everything that happened to her, Caleb remembered. Caleb remembers all this stuff, and he was the one who helped main character when she forgot stuff. He would remind her of things. Caleb, in my opinion, made his purpose to protect main character. He connects his value to the main character. And while some people have been annoyed by how many flashbacks we're getting with Caleb, I think we needed those flashbacks to, like, understand his character. The past stories and learning about Caleb before his return is important because the Caleb we meet after the return is different. Like, there's slight differences, and we needed to see this lovable character that MC, like, grew up with to be able to appreciate Caleb in the current moment. Because if you just see Caleb in the current moment and you don't get all the backstories, he's kind of insufferable. He's a little insufferable. Because without all the context and being able to see their past, you won't understand the bond they have. And you need to see the past to understand why Caleb even is a yandere about MC. Because I think a huge thing about yanderes is you need to be able to see where the obsession comes from. With Yusung, we see his reason for obsessing over the main character is because he connects the main character to Rika, someone who he is very attached to. So he kind of moves that attachment over to the main character. In the good end, you get away from this, but in the bad ends, he really leans into that. And that's why you see Yandere Yusung in the bad ends. Also, with Yuno Gasai in Mirai Nikki, one of the most well-known yanderes, she obsesses over the main character because she had met him before the game, and they'd already went through this like whole timeline once, and then they're back at the beginning, so she already has a connection with him. And that's why her obsession happens, because she already knows him. And then other yanderes, Tae from Nameless is a yandere because he was the main character's doll from childhood till they become human or whatever. So again, he has this connection to the main character that makes him like that. I think what really leads to a good yandere is this background and how they connect to the main character, because is it really realistic for a character after like a week or so to be obsessed with the main character? No, you need some backstory. You need a reason for them to be obsessed with the main character. And like, these connections don't justify what these yanderes do. Not at all. But it explains to you more about why they're doing these things. And it doesn't justify it, but it explains it enough so that you're like, oh yeah, I get it. Never would be me, but I get it. And seeing Caleb's past makes you see the good in this character before he got so obsessed with the main character. I mean, debatably, he used to be kind of obsessed with her too. You see the progression of how he was as a kid to how he is now. Caleb does a good job of walking this line where he makes me feel really uneasy at points, but also is still a likable character. Like, specifically, there's a part in Love and Deepspace in his story where you are hiding from him. You're pretending to be a nurse to get out of this place that he put you in. And you're pretending to be a nurse, and then Caleb walks into frame talking to someone else, and you're hiding, so you're hoping he doesn't see you. And then you see him whip his head around. Well, not whip his head around, but he looks over at you, and you're like, oh no, I've been caught. And it was just really unsettling to me. I know it's like a small thing, but I think the way it was done, where you're like hiding as the main character, and you're kind of like, the atmosphere made it very uneasy feeling, unnerving.
And since I've taken your place, I can order you to leave. Now. Come here. Playing hide and seek now? Did you really think you wouldn't be noticed? There are eyes in every nook and cranny. Does it look like you can escape?
And the thing is, Caleb isn't even as blatantly awful as a lot of love interests in other Otome games. Like, I'm not gonna justify his actions. He does bad shit. I mean, he puts the main character, like, hides her away, drugs her at one point. It's not as blatant as other Otomes. Like, Toma puts you in a fucking cage in Amnesia, and then, I forget what story it was, but someone is stuck in like an underground area and gets like drugged constantly. I mean, they do some crazy shit in Otome. Just look at Cheritz's bad ends, specifically for Nameless. There's literally a torture scene, an essay scene, I think, and like, it's just, their bad endings are insane. I mean, look at Juman Hand's endings. Look at the ending where like V gets tortured, I think, in one ending. Like, Otome games go for really bad endings when they say bad ending. So, maybe I'm desensitized to it from that, but Caleb is like, he's tolerable compared to other characters. Like, I can't stand Toma. Can't stand him. You know? I'm a little put off by the cage, but I don't feel that way about Caleb. Like, his actions are bad. His actions are obviously bad, but I think they're done in such a subtle way. Like, him driving the MC is implied, and his gaslighting of the main character is like so well done that it almost gaslights the player into still liking this guy, even though he is gaslighting us and keeping us away from humanity and drugging us. And anyways, so lastly, we're going to talk about the fan reception of Caleb, because oh my god, the fan reaction to Caleb is very split, very conflicted or controversial. And like, that's understandable because people feel a different way about love interests, right? As I said, I hate Toma, but I know plenty of people who love that man and want him to put them in a cage. But for me, it was too much. That was just, no. As I said, people have the right to dislike or feel uncomfortable with a character. And obviously with Caleb's actions, or any yandere's actions, it's completely valid for people to be like, that's not for me, that's not my thing. There's even people in Otome who don't play the bad endings because they are bad. Some people play Otome for like joy and to get away from the world and escapism. So you wouldn't want to play the bad endings because that's just showing like the bad part of characters that you love. But I've heard people attacking Caleb fans because of Caleb's actions and saying that they shouldn't like Caleb. I even saw someone presumably get bullied off of Twitter because they liked Caleb. I may be getting that wrong. I saw a lot of drama on my timeline. I feel like people have the right to interact with and enjoy whatever content they want online. There are a few exceptions to this, obviously, but most content people should be able to enjoy and immerse themselves into without being judged over it. Obviously, there are exceptions. Let's be honest. There's exceptions I'm not going to address in this video, but you know them. And I think a love interest in an Otome game is not one of those exceptions, let's be honest. And like, not to be an ass here, because again, dislike what you want, like what you want, I don't give a shit, and no one else should really give a shit, with exceptions. But, people have been hating on Caleb while, like, the whole Mystic Messenger fandom ate this shit up. As I said, Toma locks MC in a cage in Amnesia. And Pio Fiore, I don't know if I'm saying that right, Orlok's ending with Dante, Dante is the main character. I may bleep that. Oh, and at the time that he takes advantage of the main character, Orlok is literally bleeding out on the floor. But anyways. In Nameless, Yanho's bad ending, Tay literally tortures him like a voodoo doll, because in Nameless they're dolls. So he takes Yanho's doll and like, you know, breaks it apart, and it makes that happen to the love interest, the real person. And as I said, Cherritz's bad endings are insane. I have never been as unsettled by bad endings. And the thing is, Cherritz does such a good job with bad endings. Even the bad endings without like specific CGs, some of them are creepier than the ones with CGs. I made a whole video on Otome endings that unsettled me, or that I felt conflicted about. I'll put that in the description. I may make a new one if people want me to. Anyways, I think the reason why people are so unsettled by this is because a lot of people, Love and Deepspace is one of the most popular games. I think in the App Store it was like #1. It surpassed like Genshin Impact and stuff. And the Otome fandom isn't that big. It's big. I mean, look at Mystic Messenger from 2016. People still fucking talk about it. But it's not all of the people who are playing Love and Deepspace came from a background of playing Otome games. Some of them probably haven't even played Mystic Messenger, which is a travesty. These people who haven't really interacted with Otome haven't seen the darker themes that Otome dives into. I'm surprised though, even if they weren't into Otome, there are plenty of anime with yanderes in it. I don't know how to end this video. I've been rambling for like 35 minutes now. I basically just wanted to talk about Caleb because I've been seeing so much about him on my timeline on Twitter. He's a very complex character, and I think just putting him into a category of like creepy or not liking him, I mean, as I said before, you can dislike whatever you want. Me saying that you should probably look more into his character is just me saying that. You don't have to. You can dislike him for any fucking reason, and that's your right to. I think where it becomes a problem is when people, first off, water down his character to just being creepy. And then when people go and harass other people for liking Caleb. My biggest thing that I want you to take away from this video is just don't fucking harass people. If you don't like someone's content, if you don't like seeing Caleb and you don't want to see someone talk about him, block and mute. And I haven't even seen the worst of this Caleb stuff. I've heard it secondhand from other people. And I think if you like yanderes, y'all should play Nameless. If y'all love Caleb, okay? If y'all love this man, you should play Nameless. And honestly, if you play Love and Deepspace and you've not played Mystic Messenger yet, that's a ride for you that I wish I could replay for the first time again. If you want to see more videos, I will leave a video essay playlist on the screen. I will leave a subscribe button on the screen. You should totally subscribe. And tell me your favorite love interest below. Tell me your favorite yandere below. So I'll see you next time. I'll see you next time. Okay, bye. Oh, also, if you hear beeping in this, there is a thing in my room that won't stop fucking beeping, but I wanted to record this video, so I hope it's not too noticeable. Okay, bye.